Senate passes bill to prohibit theft of electricity supply infrastructures.
Federal government initiates water security policy for improved water quality and better livelihood.
FCT High Court dismisses embezzlement charges against suspended Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC.
Good Morning Nigeria today examines Nigeria's rail transportation, milestones and prospects.
Right now, for a majority of Nigerians who cannot afford air travel, railway transportation modernization by the present administration was indeed a big welcome development. But, as always, that excitement has somehow turned into, I wouldn't say disappointment at all, but of course there have been challenges.
Absolutely, Claire. You know, rail transportation was expected to reduce the pressure on the roads and at the same time also mitigate some of the hazards that road users face. But there are many challenges, as you have indicated, particularly for those relating to passenger traffic. There is difficulty in obtaining tickets, and of course, even if you obtain your tickets, seats are said to be unavailable on the coaches, and all of these have tended to make rail journeys somewhat unpleasant.
Indeed, Kingsley, we've heard so many reports, particularly on the Abuja-Kaduna, rail transport axis, of tickets being, hoarded and sold illegally for higher prices to those, of course, who are willing to pay more. And you know what that means, poor Nigerians, of course, for whom this development, has been a great improvement, have been forced to pay much more than they bargained for, like we said, since, of course, the Abuja-Kaduna rail transport began. Well,
there's no doubt about that, Claire. I mean, that's what you're talking about is, ticket racketeering, obviously. And the peak of all of that was when you had kidnappers and robbers who had laid siege to the Abuja-Kaduna highway. And many observers, of course, urgent cautions so that there is no relapse into the issues that, of course, tended to have crippled rail transportation a couple of decades ago. Now, there are reports, as you have just indicated, of persons who have had to spend several hours at the stations, whether in Kaduna, that's Rigasa, or here in Abuja, for them to, obtain their tickets. And there are also reports of the breakdown of the train services, and that passengers, of course, who were caught up in such circumstances had to sit and wait out for the train to be repaired before they could proceed with their trip. Unfortunately, as part of their PR, the service providers offered no apologies. Certainly, these are matters that need to be addressed.
Yes, Kingsley, if you recall, I personally, applauded in one of the special reports I did. In fact, I had to beat my phobia, for rail transport, to go on a ride from Idu to Rigasa. And I applauded the service and, of course, the experience, that passengers who also shared their experiences with me, had on that axis. But, of course, there have been challenges. People, like you said, not enough trains. We have about 2 of them, that go, to and from Abuja and all that. So there are challenges on that axis. But again, we're also looking at other aspects of rail modernization. The Lagos Ibadan is right there. Yes. We also have the eastern axis.
Eastern corridor. There is the Itakbe.
Warri
train service, or if you like, Warri corridor, which is also on. And then, of course, you also have the haulage, which is on the western axis, going right from Lagos through a number of stops straight up to Kano. There were some free rides, if you recall.
Indeed.
Yeah, some months ago, with regard to some of those locations. But of course, the Lagos-Ibadan is very critical. There's been a shift, obviously, in the completion date. But what are the issues? Of course, these are not matters that can be solved in one day. But what are the issues? And that's why we are focusing today on rail transportation, milestones, and prospects. It's on that note, yeah, that's right, Claire, that we would like to welcome our viewers to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you as always live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Claire, I don't know if I know that you were an athlete in your younger days, but this has been...
I'm still young. Hey, I'm still young.
I used
younger.
The comparative, yeah, I said younger days.
Okay.
I mean, you can't talk about a woman's age. That's a bit disrespectful. But this has been a week of huge surprises in the world of sports. And we saw what happened on the weekend. Tiger Woods coming out from the wilderness, to clinch his Masters at Augusta, taking his haul to 15. And then just last night, I mean, those who are football buffs, you saw the Wonder Boys from Ajax in Amsterdam take down another giant.
Kingsley didn't let me. I mean, I didn't watch. I mean, I had to, do some other things. Kingsley, I didn't watch, and I wouldn't, spend my precious sleeping hours to work. Except, of course, if it has to do with Nigerian football. And I'm wondering why you guys have so much passion.
Well, this is the way. Nigerian football, you also have Nigerian footballers. The goalkeeper for Ajax is Cameroonian, 22 years old.
I mean, what's this thing about Manchester, Arsenal, Chelsea? Hello?
Manchester got humiliated last night, by the way, by Barcelona.
All right, if you talk tracks, we'll get it right. All right, Kingsley, thank you. All right, welcome to the program. As always, it's always a pleasure to have you join us from wherever you're watching all over the world. It's Good Morning Nigeria. And we have our complimentary segments that will be coming your way. Not forgetting our newspaper review. As always, Bayo will join us later on. We'll also be talking about sports, as Kingsley said, and hopefully we will be looking at what's trending on arts and entertainment. Not forgetting, Kingsley, 2 days ago, of course, the cathedral in this was touched, and that was a big development on the global scene.
Yeah, well, we're not running commentaries just yet, but there's something significant that has emerged, and that tells you how societies ordinarily should respond. At least 3 millionaire families in France have pledged hundreds of millions of dollars for the rehabilitation of that iconic cathedral. All of that was on the news
that would take 5 years, just 5 years. That's what the president said.
Minimum of 5 years, up to a decade. But the fact that the money is already available, that you have the pledges, that's significant. Elsewhere, we'll be talking about what is the government going to do? What is the government going to do? You'll be looking for contractors. You're going to...
But that's why we try to talk about PPP. The private sector should get involved. They shouldn't wait before they are, stimulated, for lack of words, to help out.
To get into that,
yes.
Yeah, all right.
All right. Chimobi is already waiting, and I'm sure he can't wait to give us the news. Chimobi.
Hello, Kingsley and Claire. It's good to see you this morning.
All right.
I hope you will not cry anymore for the loss of your match here tonight.
No. I mean, I'm not. I said. I'm not. I watch all kinds of teams. One report said that Manchester got put back in their box last night so that Barcelona could proceed.
All right, good morning, Nigeria. This is the morning news, and we begin at the moment with the House of National Assembly, where Senate has passed the Electric Power Sector Reform Act Amendment Bill. The bill seeks to prohibit theft of electricity and its supply infrastructure in Nigeria.
Section 44D of the bill, which seeks to fund the special non-custodial fund, with 5% of all fines paid to the federal courts, violates the provisions of Section 81 and 84 of the 1999 Constitution as amended.
And the House of Representatives has urged the federal government to stop the issuance of fish importation license as it is inimical to the economic diversification policy of government. The lawmakers at Tuesday's plenary also requested the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and the Bank of Agriculture to provide incentives to local fish farmers to boost local production and create jobs. In adopting a motion from Representatives Jonathan Gaza, the House expressed worry that fish importers have turned Nigeria into a dumping ground in addition to other health concerns. An ad hoc committee will therefore be set up to investigate all licenses granted for fish importation within the last 1 year. And a national policy and regulation framework to provide sustainable security to water resources against potential terror and harmful threats resulting from various human activities is being developed. Minister of Water Resources Suleiman Adamu says the framework is to provide legal backing for national water security policy for improved and reliable water quality and better livelihood.
It's expected to recommend the establishment of the following. Number one, to set up special national security brigade, similar to security and civil defense corps, for the purpose of water source protection task. Two, to amend water use and license regulations of 2016 and adopt water source protection plan, a mandatory requirement in the water process of issuance of water use licenses or authorizations processes, similar to EIA regulations.
And meanwhile, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed was guest at the Voice of America corporate headquarters in Washington, D.C. and spoke on national issues.
When you look at the presidential election, even in those states where we lost governorship election, we won very handsomely in the presidential election, which means that the president's achievement was appreciated by almost everybody. Today, if anything, corruption has been driven underground in Nigeria. It's no longer on the surface, it's no longer on the table. But the other way to look at it is that, you see, one way of corruption fighting back is also to try to smear everybody.
And the FCT High Court sitting in Maitama has dismissed the embezzlement charges filed against the suspended Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Menu Gwaza, by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Offences Commission. The court ruled that the severance package paid to him is in line with the guidelines of the commission.
The court followed the principles of no case submission as enunciated in the relevant laws. So justice is served. We are very grateful. We are indeed thankful.
Moving on to other stories, a software application to track gas flaring in Nigeria has been launched by the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, NOSTRA, in Abuja.
We are flaring this gas, and we have some turbines that require gas to fire them, and there's no gas there.
But from now on, we'll be able to tell you how much heat is generated. We'll be able to tell you how much gas is flared and what is the cost of this gas that is flared.
And I believe NOSTRA are well capable of taking over this tool 100%.
And on bilateral relations, in line with the federal government's efforts towards fighting corruption and criminality in the country, the Federal Ministry of Interior has signed a memorandum of understanding with the global police organization Interpol to help bring criminals to book.
This event is the culmination of a process of establishing the legal framework governing the implementation of our peace program in Nigeria, which includes the establishment of a national electronic police information system.
I sincerely welcome this as an important step forward in our collective fight against crime.
And the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTAP, is evolving new strategies to stem the tide of human trafficking in the country. Its latest undertaking is a renewed partnership with its counterparts in Niger Republic aimed at tackling the trans-border nature of illicit trade.
It's very important that the two agencies tasked with combating this crime in both countries work together to achieve maximum results.
We realize that there's no way we can succeed without collaborating with Nigeria.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Claire just after the break. Stay with us again.
Your perfect family is under threat by germs. Infectious diseases are now the world's biggest killer of adults and children. These infectious diseases are caused by germs. They are everywhere. An average human being comes in contact with over 1 million germs daily in unclean water, dirty surfaces, in the toilets, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes. Germs can cause deadly diseases like typhoid, diarrhea, flu, and cough. To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's One Capful for surface cleaning in your bathing water, in your laundry water, for first aid to protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Introducing Dettol Antiseptic Liquid in Sachet for only 40 Naira.
Endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association.
Marketing of broadcast media products requires special skills which can only be acquired through training and experience. NTA TV College Jos is therefore organizing an intensive 3-week course on modern trends in broadcast media marketing. The course will equip participants with necessary skills to deal with contemporary marketing challenges and competition in the broadcast media. It is an essential course for marketers in the broadcast media to sharpen their skills and improve their capacities. Date 23rd April to 10th May 2019. Venue NTA Television College Refuge Jos. Course fee 100,000 Naira per participant, accommodation inclusive. For more inquiries, please contact us on 0803 314 4383 or 0806 980 9807. NTA TV College Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
In today's world, it's tough being a woman. But thanks to So Clean, Nigeria's #1 detergent with stain magnet technology, doing washing is a whole lot faster and smarter too. Only So Clean has stain magnet technology with an advanced enzyme formula that pulls out even the toughest trapped dirt, just like powerful magnets. No wonder Nigerians love So Clean. So Clean, for a faster, brighter, cleaner wash.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words. Run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Here you go.
Madam.
That's it. Those Nairas are enough.
Hi, dear. Helen! You got so much even after spending so little.
Savings is such a necessity.
You save everywhere. But here, you lose it all.
How?
With this?
Impossible.
New Tika Apic 10X.
Even after applying up to 1 liter of your solution multiple times, you won't get the same cleaning that Apic gives you in a single round.
And the expense?
Far less compared to your 1 liter of solution. New Tika Apic. Tough in cleaning,
tough in savings.
All right, you're welcome back. And I said good morning, Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Time for business news with the Central Bank of Nigeria boosting the foreign exchange market with the fresh injection of some $210 million. Plus, Accountant General of the Federation reassures workers of continuous payment of promotion arrears. Our correspondent, Joy Uzo, has details of the stories.
We'll start with a report on Nigeria being listed by international economists as one of the key countries among emerging markets that will drive global growth from the third quarter of 2019. CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele made the disclosure during a side event for investors at the just concluded 2019 spring meetings of the International Monetary Fund, IMF. He also spoke on measures taken by the Apex Bank to reduce the size of Nigeria's import bills.
To sustain supply of foreign exchange and stability of the Naira. And due to the dogged implementation of our FX restriction on certain items, we have recorded spectacular improvements in domestic production of most of these items. Local manufacturers are today reporting major boosts to their revenue and profits due to our policy.
And headline inflation released by the National Bureau of Statistics indicates an increase by 11.25% year-on-year in March 2019 from 11.31% in February. That is 0.06% lower than the February 2019 rate. The urban inflation rate increased by 11.54% year-on-year in March 2019 from 11.59% recorded in February 2019, while the rural inflation rate increased by 10.99% in March 2019 from 11.05% in February 2019. In another development, the Accountant General of the Federation, Mr. Ahmed Idris, has reassured civil servants in the country of the commitment of his office in line with Mr. President's directives to continue payment of promotion arrears owed federal civil workers. The nation's treasurer revealed that following Mr. President's directive, the 10 billion naira be set aside monthly, commencing from May 2017 to offset backlog of promotion arrears, that the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation inaugurated an in-house committee to verify MDA's claims and submissions. To this end, the committee have saved over 37 billion naira from misapplications, pardons, mistakes and non-compliance by MDAs to an agreed template. The committee has so far paid out the sum of 42 billion naira out of 55 billion naira released, leaving an outstanding of 13 billion naira in cash, while a total of 35 billion naira is yet to be released to the office. Finally, Nigeria's securities market halts bearish trend to finish Tuesday's trading on a positive note, with the NSE All-Share Index appreciating by 0.85% to close at 29,746.24 basis points. Next is a graphic representation of the closing figures. And on that note, we'll wrap business news for this time. Many thanks for your time. I'm Joy Uzo.
All right, many thanks, Joy. Let's move on now. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Bayo is here, but that'll be after the newspaper things.
All right, newspaper reviewer Bayo Atoyebe is right here with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kingsley. Yes, Claire, I'm here. Good morning. And yes. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right.
Good to see you, Bayo.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Let me start with the Daily Trust newspaper, and it has on its front page, of course, JAMB. Candidates grumble as JAMB gives update on UTME results. That's the lead story. But just a little below the nameplate, you have Gbajabiamila endorsed for Speaker at meeting with Buhari. Details of that on page 3. And Customs begins recruitment of over 3,000 officers. You can find that on page 5. Court discharges or quits suspended SEC DG Guazo on page 3. And just trending at the bottom of the paper, 15-year-old wife arrested for allegedly poisoning husband page 34. Borno elders deny endorsing Dume for Senate presidency, page 13. And Nigeria remains threatened by security challenges, that's FG on page 6. That's the outlook of the front page of the Daily Trust. Kinsley.
All right, let's take a look at the front page of the New Telegraph. New Telegraph, right from the top to the foot of the page, above the nameplate of the New Telegraph. Federal government to recapitalize Bank of Agric, that's Bank of Agriculture, with 250 billion naira. With two riders, BPE, that's the kicker, farmers to own 40% equity. Ogbe, that's the Minister for Agriculture, we want to create a farmers bank. 811 million naira debt found to withdraw services to Gombe, Kebbi and Baby airports. That's on page 4. Below the nameplate, you have a window of other headlines there. 21.5 billion naira fraud. Ex-Air Chief Amosu, others opt for plea bargain. And Credit Suisse targets Desiani's associates London homes. Federal government were working with Swiss partners to track Chibok girls. That's page 2. And APC presents Wajabi Amila to Buhari for House speakership. That's on page 4. Now, lead story, of course, is coming out of the presidential election petition. Atiku to INEC. I got my figures from your server with two riders. There's commission to deny figures in petition. And PDP candidate lists details of resource transmission. Now, just by the way, very quickly, that story is also the lead for the Punch newspaper. For the Punch newspaper, it says, Atiku to call Microsoft and IBM experts as witnesses and gives details of INEC servers. That's on page 2 for the Punch newspaper. That's the list story. But I return very quickly back again to the New Telegraph. You have, Clay, you already read that. Let's say drama as EFCC arrests dismissed Justice Ajumogobia in court after corruption charges were struck out. Judge to Ajumogobia, I can't save you from arrest. That's page 6. You can see her there on the front page of the paper, one of her Lexus in the POP cast. Court sentences 3 policemen and 4 others to death for kidnapping.
Well, let's start with the outcome of the All Progressive Congress dinner yesterday, and accordingly, they have endorsed the speakership for the current House leader, Femi Gbajabiamila, to head the United National Assembly. The position of Deputy Speaker was also zoned to the North Central. This was confirmed by the National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Lanre Issa Onilu. The contenders for North Central have actually argued that the South-South, the Northeast, Southeast, as well as the Southwest, have produced 5 deputy speakers, and therefore they, having contributed 70% of votes during the last election, deserve the speakership. Presently, candidates from Plateau and Niger are tussling for that. Meanwhile, at the Senate failed to pass the 8.83 trillion 2019 budget as indicated a fortnight ago. The Senate Appropriation Committee did not present the report as directed by the Senate President. The Senate President directed a fortnight ago that the committee should submit its appropriation report by last Wednesday. The Senate is set to proceed on the Easter recess today. However, the Senate yesterday began processes for amending the 1999 Constitution. They are also to consider and rework the 17 bills that the President declined assent to. The House had already amended 11 of those bills and prepared them for representation. 4 of those bills were dropped on the grounds of the reasons raised by the President, but 2 of the bills have been prepared and both chambers have indicated that they are set to override the President's assent.
All right. Yes, I'm just bothered about the outcome of this UTME exam. I'm just going through, details of the story that I read earlier on bio on the front page of the Daily Trust. And, of course, some students who had issues with the scanner and the machines not recognizing their, details, bio details, in the course of the exam. But before that, they had been duly certified to sit for the exam. So, and it's happening not just in one center, but across different centers in different parts of the country.
Yes, there have been challenges with the current UTME exams that actually is supposed to have ended today. But with all indications, JAMB indicated and found that there was some collusion with some centers. So during the process, some centers were cancelled, and it meant that some candidates will now have to go and through the process of certifying their examination, and this is why you are having the backlog. You'll be surprised that the registrar is on record that they have identified what they call professional exam writers who are masquerades writing exam for some persons, and it's an element that is subtle but is an element of fraud. And so that is the discovery, and these are some of the challenges the JAMB is facing with. We don't know now that the registrar and his office will have to do something about students who innocently, not their own fault, but through the process of the challenges coming from the disqualification of some centers, have not been able to write their exams.
Yeah,
they have to deal with this.
Unfortunately, this year has thrown up a number of challenges with regard to the conduct of the exam. You know, there were some centers where there were malfunctioning computers. You know, the servers, of course, were down. And I think I saw one footage where the students or the candidates were writing their exams up to about 11 p.m. I mean, what was the purpose of all of that? So I think that they need to clear up all of these glitches. What happened? What went wrong? And then would there be a second opportunity?
Precisely my
second
concern.
Opportunity.
Particularly that it's not the fault of the students.
Absolutely.
Yes. It's a systematic challenge they had, and so they must make sure that those students who could not appropriately see the exam are given the opportunity to so do.
Yeah, to write the exam, because the process, of course, is fairly straightforward. Yes. It can be organized in a matter of weeks, I believe, and then let them have the opportunity of being in competition with their contemporaries. I want to return to the Punch newspaper. You have other headlines?
Yes, just on the front page of the Daily Sun, how EFCC frustrated vote buying. And that's coming from the EFCC boss, Magu. And it has a rider, Interpol comments anti-corruption body. Of course, there are other trending stories. So, Kingsley, you've read them.
Well, yes. Let me take the stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Above the nameplate of the Punch newspaper, we take some headlines there. It says, petrol landing cost now 180 naira per litre, says Kachuku. Details of that from page 23. Of course, the story is sourced from the comments made by the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum, Dr. Emmanuel Kachuku, when he appeared on Good Morning Nigeria yesterday. Of course, he said a lot more than the landing cost of petrol at the moment in the country, including a number of other issues relating to gas, and what needs to be done with respect to whether or not there will be subsidy removal or otherwise in the appropriate time, plus the forthcoming licensing round of for oil blocks. Then another one piece there beside the nameplate of the Punch newspaper. Nigeria loses 353 billion naira to illegal gold mining in 3 years. IYC, that's the Joy Youth Council, Bayelsa, Kick. That's on page 2.
Kingsley, sorry, I'm sorry. Just the story you took on the petroleum minister, Minister of State. I really like to credit Punch, because if you go deep inside, Punch, of course, credited the source, of that report, coming from Good Morning Nigeria. I mean, that's the way to go.
Well, that is the professional way to do things. It is not uncommon for people to take stories from News Agency of Nigeria and will refuse to attribute as if they were originated the stories. It's a serious unprofessional conduct. So this is commendable for the Punch, attributing the report to a source. But the rapid development that is going to help the challenge for security in our sub-region is the international police that signed an agreement yesterday with the federal government. And it was pointed out by the Jorgen Stock, the Secretary General of Interpol, that criminality networks dealing with narcotics and also weapons and migrants have dominated the West African sub-region. And so they have taken advantage of lack of information sharing system by security agencies to operate unhindered. And he said that the signing of WAPIS, that is the West African Police Information System, will help governments and security agencies with the Interpol to share information and nip security in the world. Minister of Interior, Abraham Dambazao, also said that this will boost the information exchange to challenge criminality in the sub-region. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission yesterday presented certificate of return to Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State and 32 members of the State House of Assembly. The National Commissioner for Edo, Bayelsa, and said that going forward, steps must be taken to nip the challenge of election violence in Rivers State. Governor Nyesom Wike dedicated the certificate to the people of Rivers State. Meanwhile, the army, he was praised for this role as well as the police, but he also commended the INEC for being firm in the election.
All right, Bayo, there's a photograph on the front page of the Punch newspaper, and the caption is as follows: Indigents of Sarki, Ido, that's the Punch newspaper, says indigents of Sarki, Ido, Giri, and other affected villages are in a protest over the killings and forceful takeover of their land by the Nigerian army. And the protest took place yesterday at the entrance to the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation in Abuja. That was once again on Tuesday. Now, below that, you have a window of other headlines. Let's take 2 or 3 of them. Court orders DSS to produce Dasuki. That's page 10. And molten iron kills 4 workers in Indian Steel Company. Honore Sans demand probe of other judges. Details on page 43. Claire.
All right, there's just a story trending at the bottom just before we take our editorial. Again, Daily Sun, and it says a controversy over demolition of AIT structure in Abuja. Details of that on page 9.
Yeah, I just, there's another story I want to read. This time it's a foreign copy, and then, of course, Bayo will have the opportunity of responding to them before we take the editorial. It's at page 36 of the New Telegraph. We can't have that on the screen now, but let me just go over it very quickly. It says, Burundi schoolgirls expelled for doodling on president's image. There are 3 schoolgirls who were detained in Burundi for doodling on the picture of the president have been expelled from school following their release from jail. Now, the girls, who are all minors, were detained for 6 days last month at Ngozi Central Prison and charged with insulting the head of state, according to Human Rights Watch. Say their detention sparked worldwide anger, with many taking to the social media to post defaced pictures of Nkurunziza with the hashtag #FreeOurGirls. So doodling on the president, you know, there are some countries that have insult laws.
Yes.
You know what doodling, by the way, for those is just you get a picture now, you start, writing all kinds of writing all kinds of.
Actually, the United Nations, under the auspices of UNESCO, has frowned at such crime. Particularly, so this one is worse because it is involving minors, and it is despicable that you have to detain minors in the prison for such a period of time. The earlier report you mentioned about indigenous demonstrating, they actually had barricaded the National Assembly and also went to the office of the FCTA. They were saying that one of their brothers had been killed by the army over a land tussle. But the minister, the permanent secretary for the FCDA, Christiana Oha, says that FCDA is working towards a permanent solution. He, however, had advice for them. It is not fair to use force to state people's case. If all people use force to state their case, society will know no peace. From the courts, the FCT High Court has discharged and acquitted the suspended DG of Security and Exchange Commission, as well as the commissioner that were charged. However, a social media commentator was not that lucky. Ibrahim Wala has bagged 7 years jail term for charges for which the Attorney General of the Federation filed against him. There was 4-count charge, and he was found guilty of 4 of public incitement and defamation of the character on social media. So, if you put something on the social media, don't forget there could be consequences. He had actually defamed the chairman of the Hajj Commission, and had claimed that information available to him had indicated that he has converted 3 billion to his personal use, and there was no such information. He couldn't prove it in court. All
right, Bayo, let's quickly, we've spent our time really, but let's quickly look at the editorials from the New Telegraph, and it's on how NFF must nurture transit, age grade teams.
Yes, the editorial is happening on the successes of Nigeria in the underage teams. Particularly on record is that for the under-17, Nigeria has won world titles about 5 times. Under-20, we have won silver and bronze. Under-23, you recall the Atlanta group, we won gold at the Olympics. So the question is, why is it that we are not able to transit all this effectiveness into the senior team? So the editorial is saying that Gernot Rohr, the manager, should enjoin to monitor the under-23 team so that he ensure that there is a fast transition and take benefit of that. And the editorial is emphasizing that modern-day football belongs to the youth, the young that are energetic with skill and have a mentality to deliver results. So that is an appropriate advice to the managers of the national football team.
All right, Kingsley?
Yeah, nothing else. Bayo, that's all we have for newspaper review section. Thank you very much for being with us. See you again tomorrow.
Thank you too.
Go break a leg?
Yes.
All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll get ahead with our principal item for conversation.
My name is Smart. I'm a professional electrician and I only use the best cables in Nigeria. Nokako is one of Nigeria's most leading cable manufacturers. Nokako carries out rigorous quality control tests on its products at every stage of the production process. So its high quality is maintained throughout the full length of the conductor that meets both national and international standards. These cables are manufactured in a state-of-the-art cables and wire plant equipped with the most advanced machinery and processes. Nokako is certified by the Standard Organization of Nigeria and is an NIS Diamond Award winner.
Be like Smart by Nokako.
Team huddle.
But we lost.
Don't be tired, guys. This isn't a loss. It's a practice for winning.
Nothing makes a mother prouder than seeing her child growing up. But I know as he learns to lead, he'll face even more dirt, germs, and risk of illness.
That's why in changing seasons, you need strong Dettol protection. Because Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the role of the media in election coverage. Exclusive on the National Broadcasting Commission, its mandate as the sole regulator of Nigerian media. Dr. Toba Daba then and Ishak Modibo Kawu now. This edition also features the king of stand-up comedy in Nigeria, Ali Baba. NTA standards to be ready for election transmission after decades of abandonment. Find out from the DG transactional elections in our political space. An evil wind that blows no good. DG, National Orientation Agency, calls on TV Guide, your indispensable companion, x-rays the impact of social media on electioneering process as electorates present their expectations from incoming government. Meet some TV professionals behind the screen and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
All right, welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, before we get ahead into our topic for conversation this morning, let's listen to this background put together by our correspondent, Mitare Ikwe.
The Abuja-Kaduna Railway is one of the visible forms of modern transportation infrastructure in the country today. For first-time passengers at the Idu train station, they get fascinated by its modern terminal.
This place is, it looks like like an average train station abroad. Very fine.
The train service, which operates 4 return trips daily, now appears not to be enough to cater for the huge traffic as seen here at the Idu terminus. Friday, Udo tells me that the swelling patronage might not be unconnected with security concerns.
I am traveling with my family, have a car, but unfortunately, based on what is happening on the road between Abuja and Kaduna today, certainly I will not risk my life and that of my family. So I had to drop my car and take a cab that brought us here.
According to some passengers, the rush to use the railway instigated some form of alleged ticket racketeering scheme.
Some persons will come, maybe I buy authenticate. That's what people have been doing in the official rate, and then go and sell in a higher rate to the persons they want to.
Do you know, if you get to Kubwa now, what you're going to be seeing is standing tickets. How are they going to calculate those who are standing, how much they're paying? Even standing tickets, you can see standing ticket for like 3,000 naira. You know, yes, people pay standing ticket for 3,000 naira because when you get to that place, there's no more seats.
Purchasing a train ticket is now a big deal, as passengers stand in long winding queues in desperation for tickets they are not so sure of even getting.
We had to write names, number one. After writing names, you have to wait for the officials to call names one after the other. Then after that, before you purchase your ticket.
I know they're trying to do this, trying to, curtail the ticket racketeering and all of that, but still, it's not going to help.
The physically challenged are left with no choice but to bear the brunt.
I've been waiting for almost more than 1 hour now, and some people told me that they have been waiting for more than 3 hours, 4 hours, which is not proper, it's not ideal.
If not for the security situation, it doesn't just worth it.
In the frustration, several passengers clamor for automated ticketing procedures.
You need to just get an online platform where people can plug in their details. People can buy their tickets, and with that way, you won't even see any queue, and it will be seamless.
They should go online. Makes it easier.
Getting the Idu train station management to respond to issues raised was futile, as officials declined comments. Our crew, however, gathered that the watchful eyes of plainclothes security operatives recently deployed to train stations have somehow toned down the scenario of ticket racketeering. Patronage of the Abuja-Kaduna train service is growing, and so also are the challenges. The passengers are calling on the railway authorities to come up with far-reaching solutions that will ameliorate the cumbersome nature of purchasing tickets for the train service so that it will be a pleasurable experience for them.
All right, many thanks to you, Mitairi Ikbeng. But again, Kingsley, as you always say, that's just one leg, of our railway transportation milestone and prospects.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. It's much more elaborate, but of course we'll get to that shortly.
All right, let's quickly welcome our guests. And first, here seated with us in the studio is the Minister of Transportation, Chibuike Rotimi Amaechi. Honorable Minister, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
We also have in the studio the Managing Director, Nigeria Railway Corporation, Mr. Fidet Okiria. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah.
And Engineer Adekunle Mokolo is President, Nigerian Society of Engineers. Engineer, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. Once again, gentlemen, you're welcome to the program. But let's begin first with the Honorable Minister of Transportation. Taking off from the background report, reporter, of course, focused on what's going on now on the Abuja-Kaduna rail corridor. Right? Some would say good news, and others would also say bad news. Assuming the train services were not available, you won't be having the kind of rush. But what does all of that mean to you at this time in terms of the pressure on the train services, plus the obvious frustration that the number of intending passengers are suffering?
Well, the first thing is that before construction, I think the traffic count was what we provided for. The traffic count will determine the number of coaches and locomotives that you put on the track. So the traffic count did not exceed 600 passengers. And now when you have security pressures now built on railways, you certainly know that the solution is not what the young man was talking about, e-ticketing. If you put e-ticket, it just means that people will buy tickets by online process. Now, even if they buy 600, if you buy 600, you have a pressure of 1,000, 1,500 persons. So you have to provide for that extra number of about 700 to 800 persons. So what we've done is to request the Managing Director of NRC to go to Itabewari and pull out two more coaches to see how we can manage that pressure. But in the long run, what you need more coaches, you need more locomotives to be able to service the demand. But the demand is temporary. At the moment, the security pressure on the Kaduna Abuja is fixed. those men who own cars usually will go by road, will go back to the road, and that pressure would reduce.
Honorable Minister, that's an assumption that when the security, situation improves, the search for the train services will probably reduce, given the experience and the comfort of, and of course the cost availability. That probably might not, that assumption might not hold, because a lot more people are really demanding for a rail transport system. So are we just scratching at the tip of this modernization, or do we have, a broader vision?
The vision has always been there, but I smiled because when you talk about if we are scratching on this thing and not finding the solution is to provide tracks and provide coaches and locomotives. That we have done. The problem is that you've not provided enough to match the current upsurge. And let me tell you why I think that surge will reduce. There are men who, to address transportation to Kaduna or to Abuja, you must provide for intermodal process. Intermodality means that you have to provide for buses or taxis that will pick people at the point at Rigasa or at Idu or at Kubwa. Now, if you add the cost of those transportation to the cost of railway, it may possibly be higher than taking transport from Kaduna straight to Abuja. It may. So there are people who say, oh, no, I can't bear that cost, despite the comfort, despite the air-conditioned atmosphere, the restaurant or whatever this thing you find in the railway, and we're beginning to increase the speed from 90 to 120. At 120, we expect that should be in Kaduna an hour plus. Now, despite all those comfort, there are those who say, if it's safe and I drive my car, it is shorter and quicker to get to where I'm going to than picking a train. Those people will be out of rail. The people who will be out of rail will be those who will look at the cost and say to them, I have maybe my car will be parked at the station and to pick me at the station and all that. And what we have to do is government is subsidizing rail. So what we have to do is make it affordable for the poor to use. Currently, the rich, the wealthy, and the poor are using it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, some person will say, look, are these projections arising from, evidence in terms of what you're describing now, whether passenger traffic will increase or decrease? The jury is still out on that issue. But one question to ask is, what is the challenge in procuring additional locomotives or even coaches? Coaches obviously are cheaper than locomotives.
It's not bought up the shelf. Okay, so I can go to the president and say, Mr. President, good morning, sir. We have pressure in Kaduna. Can I get an approval to buy more coaches? Even if the president says yes, or public procurement department say yes, go to cabinet says yes, it will take us another 1 year to bring in those coaches. Because they then have to start fabricating the coaches. What you say is like, we shall provide for the way we are providing for Lagos Ibadan. Lagos Ibadan will have enough coaches because we projected the number of passengers and projected to the future they need. So I think what happened in the case of Kaduna Abuja is that because in the economic study of Lagos Kano, Kaduna Abuja did not produce enough passenger traffic. So naturally, in the Lagos Kano, it is the least provided for in terms of coaches because the pressure is not there. We didn't expect that there would be this pressure of people. There was no time people would say they were standing. It was the more the security pressure increased, the more the demand for railways also increased. Now, currently, like I said, we are going to move 2 coaches from Itakpe to Itakpe Warri because the passengers, this in traffic, there is just 100. So if it's just 100 passengers, 2 coaches will be enough at 88. That will be 170-something passengers. When did you get only 100? And what we're also going to do is we're going to China in the next 1 week to inspect the fabrication of more coaches and locomotives meant for Lagos Ibadan. We believe that those coaches, when they arrive, the demand for Lagos Ibadan will not be as high as the number of coaches they were bringing in. So some of them will be deployed to Kaduna Abuja, some will be deployed to Itabewari if and when the traffic pressure increases. What we'll do by next year's budget, not 2019, it depends on who is the Minister for Transport. I expect that what the Minister will do is to now request for more locomotives and coaches so we're not caught napping like we are caught in the case of Kaduna Abuja.
Right, Honorable Minister.
But first, you must realize the study is scientific. It's not a guesswork.
Yes, because
well, of course, if we don't need to drill further into that, I'm sure that scientific studies can be reviewed from time to time. If we are seeing this pressure now, what are the projections, going forward? But there's still, you've referenced the Itakpe-Warri rail corridor. Tell us some more about that, because that rail corridor, again, is critical, not just for passenger traffic, but also relevant to the steel industry, iron and steel industry, which unfortunately isn't gaining traction.
Well, that's not the iron and steel industry, I think, is being handled by my colleague, and he's doing quite well. It's intricate and it's very complex. So I don't think that anybody should make a statement on it until you understand what is going on between the Ministry of Mines and Steel and then those who had bought the factories. Now, Itabewari is completed, excluding stations and communication, which we're working on. I was there last week. Last week, and saw that the rapid rate at which those stations are being constructed between June and September, most of them should be completed. I don't know, I can't project on the communication, but even if you don't have communication, let's assume you have only one train running on that track, so you don't need too much communication, except for purposes of security. But then we're working hard to ensure that by the end of this year, the communication system would have been installed, and then we'll be left with just the infrastructure for accommodation for staff and all that, which will be going to cabinet in the next few weeks. It's meant for, which, although we inherited a bit of it, we changed it into, or we included the passenger part of it, because it was mainly intended for iron ore. We've added passenger, and we intend to, if the cabinet approves, to get that route from Abuja to Baro to Itakpe, so you can connect the south-south to Abuja. It's even our intention, if we get approval today, to start the construction of the Lagos Calabar from maybe Port Harcourt to Warri, to enable the south-south first link to Warri, while we're looking for funds to complete the Lagos to Calabar. So it's ongoing, and I think the speed at which we are chasing it, we must thank the President for the approval of funds and the release of money in this extremely difficult time, which wasn't like that in the past.
Honorable Minister, I'm not still done with Abuja Kaduna Rail. For now, that's the pride of the ministry and of the country.
Do you use it?
Well, I did once. In fact, I had to, like I told Kingsley earlier on, my phobia for train services, I beat it by going on that train for the first time. I didn't used to. I mean, I had a phobia for it. Yes.
You're scared? Why?
Yes, but I had to do that.
I feel most comfortable in the train.
Well,
I'm most secured.
Yeah, and one of the.
I want to explain why.
I'll do that later. Actually, one of the promises, that the administration made was to provide a cost-effective, rail transport. And as you must have heard from the passengers, the issue of tickets, racketeering and all that. And recently there was a report about some people, in fact, key staff, being arrested by the EFCC. I'd like the minister to really, clarify that for us and what is being done to address that issue, to ensure that people, obtain their tickets at the right official rates.
What can I do? I'm not a policeman, neither am I EFCC. But what we've done, first, there are 2 or 3 weeks prior to this incident, 2 or 3 weeks before that, I had appeared at that station and warned the woman who was in charge of ticketing that I don't want to hear about ticket racketeering anymore. So it was embarrassing when the Minister of Justice Madam S.A.N., called me one weekend, that Saturday or Sunday, and said, do you know what's going on at IDU? And I said, no. First and foremost, I'm the minister. I'm not the managing director of NRC, neither am I the manager of the station. But, well, the way the government is run, I'm allowed to have such information and react to it. So when he called, I said, do you know what's going on at IDU? And are you aware that they are selling tickets? Which ticket you are selling for 1,500 has been sold for 3,000 to 5,000? I said, why would that happen? He said, go and investigate. And I carried out an investigation. That was true. I think the FCC did well in coming in with plain clothes and arrested some people. Those of our staff that have been arrested, ordinarily, you would have said they will be dismissed. But they have to follow the procedure. So we allow them go through the procedure for punishing those who commit such crimes. Like I said that day when I was talking to the woman, I said the problem with the country is that people are not punished for committing crime. So it encourages people to be criminal-minded. Now, those staff that are involved in these activities will be disciplined. They must be disciplined according to the rules of the civil service. Secondly, we've been with ICRC for nearly a year or two now, trying to get a partnership with a private firm to get this the purchase of ticket online. It's not an easy process. Most people, if you saw this, you will see that even there are no security protection for you to engage the platform. All that is being put in place. They're not things you just wake up one day and you dictate it. Amechi says put those things and it happens. In fact, if somebody had asked me between being a governor and being a minister, which one would you prefer? Because as a governor, you go there, you just call somebody, my friend, fix this thing, and it's fixed. As a minister, you have to first and foremost go back to your ministry. You have to develop the concept. You have to go to ICRC. You have to go to, after ICRC, you must go to BPP. When the two of them are approved, then you go to cabinet. That may take you 6 to 7 to 8 months. But we're almost at the end of ICRC, so we'll get to the cabinet, requesting cabinet approval. We're also going to partnership with the firm. Once they agree, her responsibility is to provide all the necessary security infrastructure at every station. So far, between Kaduna and Abuja, the entire Lagos, I hope the entire Lagos to Kano, and then put us on an e-ticketing platform.
Does the minister have any specific word for the passengers now, because they're watching with regards to this issue of ticket?
There's nothing anybody can do until you follow the process. You know, one thing about all of us Nigerians is that when a man is caught for not following process, we jubilate. Criminal, he's a thief. When he then decides to follow process, oh, you're too slow. It's the law. We just have to wait. The memo will go to cabinet when we pass through ICRC. When it goes to cabinet, it's approved, then the company can proceed.
Okay, Claire, I don't know whether you're done with. Yeah, but of course, we have other guests before we bring them in. Still on this time, rail infrastructure. Let's return to Lagos Ibadan. What is the status? There's been a shift, you know, in the completion date. What went wrong, if any, and what are the prospects?
Completion date is a 3-year contract.
Yeah, it has 3 year has a terminal date.
Oh, so you still have 1 year plus now. If we go by the 3 year, like I tell you what the company says. He said, "No, Minister. Okay, I didn't know if you read this paper last 2-3 weeks when I visited here. There are two things they said. They call me nownow.com. One of them asked me a question and I laughed. He said, Minister, election is over now. Why are we still in a hurry? And I said, I need to put passengers on this track and reduce the pressure at the seaport. Because the moment that rail is working, then the pressure at the seaport, the so-called Lagos gridlock will be solved. I want my name attached to the fact that I will find a solution to that Lagos gridlock. What will find a solution to that Lagos gridlock is movement of those goods away from Lagos by rail out. It saves us the harassment on the road. It saves us the destruction of our road infrastructure and all that. So we are not only on target, we've surpassed the target. We are going to complete track formation latest first to second week in June. That's record breaking for a 3-year contract. So when we complete that, we're already constructing railway, stations. And I've told them in 3 months' time they should complete the small stations. Then we can then focus on the big ones, which they say will take us nearly a year to complete.
But the minister was also reported, and in fact, one of our footages in the reports, you expressed concern, very, very deep concern about the speed of work in terms of the track lane within a specified time frame. Can the minister hint at what it's causing that delay? Why you were really very angry.
There's no delay. If we look at it in the contract, listen, the contract has an expiration period. That's 3 years. And this is 1 year, 6 months or 7 months. So there's no delay if you look at it. Why I say there's a delay is that when we meet, we give ourselves targets. So like we met the last time, we say we must hit kilometer. I think this week we say 110. 110 this week. That's what we said. No, this month. So May 8th, when I get there on May 8th, I expect that they will have hit kilometer 110. That day, they were to hit kilometer 95. And they hit kilometer 92. They have an explanation, which I refuse to agree with. The explanation was that there was a community, they had not built an overhead bridge for them to walk across. And the community felt that if they pass there at kilometer 92 without building, they may not come back. So the community stopped them. It took them 3 to 4 days to reconcile with the community. And that affected the speed with which they could have gotten to kilometer 95. So I expressed dismay. But you pressmen, you just, look, man, this is something that somebody else would have been handling while you continue your construction. Or call the attention of the ministry that would then come to address the community. But you didn't do any of those things, you stopped work. That's what I said. Then they say, the minister is disappointed at the pace of work. That's exactly what happened.
Well, you're expressing optimism as to how the Lagos-Ibadan rail system, once it gets running, would help ease the traffic congestion in Lagos.
At Apapa.
In Lagos, Apapa, of course, that's where the traffic menace is. What is the connection? Because there were issues, of course, there were old rail lines that had become disused. Are those rail lines now being rehabilitated?
The president has insisted that we must rehabilitate those rail lines. But you see, we don't want to use our money. We had gone into an agreement with GE to fund it and run it for the number of years for which they will recover their money. Then we got into a conversation with, after them, they pulled back just because, they had some crisis. We're talking with Transnet. We've not concluded that, even though that Transnet has local problems in their country, but we're talking with Transnet to see how they can come in and invest. But you see, what we're doing is that's where we deviate with the President Obasanjo's modernization. President Obasanjo's modernization entails that once you finish the standard gauge, then you have nothing to do with the narrow gauge. We are saying, no, let's get an investor to rehabilitate the narrow gauge and run it himself and recover his money while we continue construction of the standard gauge. The reason is there are political pressures on us, both political and economic pressures, for us to get rail to areas where they are most needed. And then we don't have the necessary finances to back up that pressure. If we had it, we'd say to hell with narrow gauge. So what we would do is to say, look, let's get people to rehabilitate the narrow gauge and so that we can continue to run our businesses and passenger activities on those narrow gauge, no matter how slow it is. Because I'm told that narrow gauge does not exceed 100 kilometers per hour, as compared to standard gauge that takes you 120, 150, 250, 350. Currently, the Chinese rail is 350. So in a day, you should be in Kano, 350 kilometers per hour. So you can see that for 1,500 kilometers, certainly 5, 6 to 7 hours, you should be in Kano. We don't have that. Ours is 150 design, 120 actual, right? So, and the money is huge. Like I said, we need about $36 billion to be able to get all the rails we need. Not all the rails we want, all the rails we need. And we don't have $36 billion. So for the president, look, like he told me last week, he said, Amechi, get your priorities right. Can we focus on rehabilitating the narrow gauge while we're working on the standard gauge? So those disused tracks you have heading to the seaport will be rehabilitated while we are currently constructing the standard gauge to the seaport. We believe that by December we should get the standard gauge to the seaport. If that happens, it will be a lot easier to move goods out of the seaport from Apapa than what we are currently suffering, where you have this pressure on Apapa, what is called Apapa gridlock.
Okay, just before we expand our conversation, I know we've been cutting partners, external partners, for loans to finance the outstanding portions of this railway project, Lagos, Ghana and all that. I'm wondering, and I know a lot of people are also wondering, what will be the source of repaying these loans? Will ticketing, just be a nut source?
It depends on the number of years that we are given to repay. I believe that Lagos can repay itself. But if it doesn't, they will have other sources. Because whether you like it or not, you need to construct these railways. So if you want to use your own money to construct, then you wait for eternity to construct that. But if you have to source funds from the international community to be able to fund it, like it's done in nearly all the countries. There's nowhere in the world that railway has been funded by the private investors. What they fund is operation, not construction, because the cost is exorbitant. Now, so if you ask how would it be paid back, I believe that Lagos Kano, because if they are currently doing 30 million tons of cargo in a year, I'm sure that once it improves, the tonnage will also increase. And so we'll be able to pay some of the loans back from that. But I don't believe that we'll be able to fund all of them back from ticketing or running the railway. I believe that there will be other sources from the national revenue.
All right, Honourable Minister, thank you very much. Let's pause where we've virtually focused on the western corridor of the rail system. We'll return to you and then take a look at the eastern corridor. But in the meantime, let's now bring in Engineer Freeborn Fidet Ohiria, who is the Managing Director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation. My colleague earlier introduced him. Engineer Ohiria, of course, again, with you, we will return to the Abuja-Kaduna rail corridor. There are managerial issues here in terms of management of passenger traffic, particularly the ticket racketeering. What exactly has been wrong? Is it just lax supervision or otherwise?
If you look back, as the minister said, the volume of people coming to the station had gone up. And if you also cross-check, the people arrested, I think only 2 were railway staff. You see, we have made it a way that before you buy your ticket, you must come with an ID, not necessarily passport or driver's license, but something to at least identify yourself. And we make sure at the back of your ticket is written the number of the ID card, and we have manifest. That allows you to enter the waiting room. So, and when the train is ready to go, about 15 minutes to, they now start boarding people. And you must show your ID card to match the ID card number on the back of your ticket, must match with the ticket. But sometimes you have people coming, say we are family, and only one of them, maybe say 4 or 3 children. It's okay. You put their numbers on the 3 tickets. That is the parent ID card. Those are the tickets they go back and sell. So when the FCC came, they are doing their work and they arrested people. Most of them, the staff arrested are not even on the ticket desk. One is on health and safety, and one is not even supposed to be at the station. And a policeman that's supposed to be protecting the people selling the ticket were those picked. Yes. So that's, I'm just bringing it out so that you understand how the ticket is being sold presently. But we'll be making effort to ensure even your ATM can use it as it's done abroad. That's what the system we are profiling and we have been working on. That's now with ICROC, so that you don't need to even meet somebody, no contact. But we should have to have that system, the infrastructure in place for that to function. So we have to get it right. As you see, when demand is more than the supply, there's always going to be pressure. And in most cases, especially Abuja-Kaduna is a very sensitive, that's what we told our staff, and they have to make sure they do the right thing. If you tell me you are going to Abuja, you call me, I want to go to Abuja, please, I will be going so time, please help to get ticket. Will I tell you no?
Well, is that, yeah, that's a reservation. You don't purchase a ticket.
Okay, you reserve, somebody will give it to you. Is that correct?
No, the way it's done, you make a reservation booking, and when you go there and present your details, it's confirmed, you pay, and you collect.
But when you come and pay, and somebody else was on the queue, because I've reserved for you, and when you come, you pay and give you tickets. It's racketeering. Because somebody was there at the station waiting.
No, but MD, are you denying the fact that ticket racketeering is going on in Idu?
You see, there are ways. Less racketeering. There are no fake tickets. Do you agree with that? Because our tickets are secured, very secured.
So the tickets are hoarded, or the tickets are purchased allegedly by some of your staff in collusion with others.
And so that
they hoard them so that near the time of departure, they start hacking up.
Who is patronizing those people?
Passengers.
So it's not a one-way thing. I'm not defending them. What I'm trying to say is that Nigerians should learn how to do the right thing. They should not encourage such practice.
Okay, let me ask you.
However, to solve this problem...
let me ask you one other question that you can take along. Do you have a uniform, fee, both for the SP1, as you call it, and the SP2?
No.
You don't?
Yes.
But there are passengers who paid the same thing, whether it's the economy class or the...
Why should you pay?
His argument is that, look, there's a place to buy a ticket. Why buy from... anybody else?
Well, they will tell you. Hold on. They will tell you simply, the ticket is no longer available.
So,
yeah,
so is available now.
No, if a passenger has to be at a certain destination, they tell the ticket is not available. But if you go to that guy, maybe he has this ticket to 1,000.
Report the guy.
And the person will tell you,
because we have not, as far as placing staff name.
No, but is this
on our staff?
Just a minute.
Apart from ID cards, we have prepared a tag.
Is that a proper? Just hold on a second, please. Yeah. Is that a proper managerial approach? By the time we start reading the tweets that we have from our viewers, you will hear the torrent of complaints.
I thank God we are here to
they will hear the torrent. I'm just asking whether it's a proper managerial approach. Racketeering is racketeering. You find it, for football games and so on and so forth. People will buy tickets, hold them, and then at match time, they'll start selling those tickets at a premium. What we just said is, look, fine, EFCC has busted a couple of them. You said only 1 or 2 of them were your staff. But what else can be done to improve on the ticketing procedure for what is now obviously your flagship corridor?
Okay, that's what the minister has explained, what is ongoing now presently. The only way to save that is to have enough coaches, and luckily enough, among those ones we have ordered for Lagos, there's an element for Abuja Kaduna. It was captured in that contract. About 15 coaches and 4 locomotives.
If you put 15 coaches on that, you will not have any passenger at all.
And from what we have, from the study, even if you make a train 20, the pressure will be there because everybody wants to travel on Friday night to Kaduna. So where you have this issue of practical racketeering is Friday, Saturday, then Sunday and Monday. So what we are trying to do, at least to reduce it, not that to reduce, the number of trains you have, not the number of coaches you have per train. If there are trains every 30 minutes, every 1 hour, because somebody that is going to Kano want to get to Kaduna so that he can join a vehicle, but at a particular time so that he will not travel by night. So, but when you have it 1 hour, so you can have the patience to wait for the next 1 hour. Not presently, I think it's 2 hours. So when those coaches and locomotives will increase the number of times we run, and while the ticketing process is in place. In rail all over the world, you are not supposed to sell ticket. You can say you can buy in advance, but that's where you run train every 5 minutes. But where you run train more than 1 hour, you must have to wait for the train to depart this station before you start selling at the next station. To ensure that you don't sell ticket and the train eventually is cancelled, or you have a problem with the locomotive and it's not running. So it's part of the working instruction that a train must depart station A before station B can start selling. So that's why you see, if you it's a law in our system, not only in Nigeria, but when you start running every 5 minutes, you can come and buy every time, which we are not doing presently.
Engineer Mokolo, we'll soon come to you. Let's finish with the MD first.
I just want to be clear.
Yes.
Why would you say, if you have an online system, why would you wait until the train departs, say, Abuja, and heading to the next stop, which is like 15 or 30 minutes away?
You what is
it's a worldwide. I don't think that is correct.
No,
I mean, we bought trains elsewhere.
I made an exemption. I said, where you run train every five minutes, you buy ticket online.
Okay. You can't run trains every 5 minutes. You can run the subway every 5 minutes or a tram.
It's a train.
But a tram. I mean, we're talking now about. I'm sorry. This is not. I'm just trying to clarify this for the benefit of our viewers. A subway, or the underground, or the tram, which goes, every 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But if it's a train, those are scheduled. Those are scheduled services. Yes. And you have intervals depending on the volume of traffic and depending on the management. It could be anything. It could be hourly. It could be 2 hours, and so on and so forth. But the managerial issue is, how do you modernize it such that those who are buying so-called, is it a Molue now that you'll be buying standing ticket at Kubwa?
No, you see, the solution to this problem is that when the coaches we are expecting come in and we deploy them. You see, you say somebody is standing, but the person standing has taken another ticket. Nobody standing say ticket for somebody to stand. But you say, I can't go back to town. Do you know the cost of this? So we make them write another ticket, find out, do this thing independently and find out. They say, please, just give me a ticket, I will stand.
What is the undertaking?
You sign that I'm sitting, because seats are located. In present day, Abuja, Kaduna, seats are located. You can ask your people who go on it and those who have gone to do...
Is that best practice?
Of course, to allocate seats.
Everybody must have a seat.
No, best practice.
To stand.
Because you are talking about undertaking. I wonder, the minister is listening. Well, Nigerians will say, God forbid. Yeah. In any eventuality, they will sue the hell out of Nigeria Railway Corporation. Right. I'm standing. If something happens and then maybe a passenger hits, he said that because he was standing, that was why he sustained the injury.
How do we resolve this issue now? Even with people standing, you still have people, hold on. You still have people crying. There are people who struggle, beat up the staff, that they must go with the train. Are you getting me?
Yes.
So, and they said, okay, no more seats. And there are limits. You can stand even. I have stood in a train abroad.
These are provisions that they have made to accommodate more passengers. Yeah. Now, let me tell you.
No, but you should have asked your colleague Kingsley the question. If we say only 600 passengers can go in, and there are about 1,500 passengers, do you know what will be happening now?
Even those 600 cannot board.
There'll be total chaos. They won't even allow 600 to board. So, but you see, the problem with Nigerians is that when they have accepted to stand on their own volition, and they stand and get to the place, when they come down, imagine I stood for 2 hours.
Precisely.
But it's a temporary measure to ensure that everybody is accommodated.
Yeah, but
temporary.
Yes.
What I can tell you, I say we have done. I've Nigeria Corporation to bring two coaches from
Itape.
And don't forget to. This minister has directed. It will take more than 2 weeks to come because there's no track from Itape to Abuja. So to come by road, they have to get the necessary vehicles that will convey by road. And don't forget that the roads are bad. So it's only when it gets in that it begins to operate.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I wanted to, yes. When I rode on that train, it was quite comfortable for me.
Even with your phobia.
Even with my phobia. But there are people who have complained of breakdowns, the ACs are not working.
That's not correct.
Yeah.
Claire, if you don't mind, can we pause on that? Because there are issues arising from breakdowns of services. We'll come to you presently on that. But let's bring in now Engineer Mokolo, who is the president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. That's Adekunle Mokolo. Of course, you've been listening to what the other guests have been saying, and also smiling when I was talking about whether, the corridor has now become a Molue. That's Fela Adekunle Kuti, 99 standing, 44 sitting or something, if you remember that record. But more seriously, the government, and here the minister has been talking about the efforts being made in terms of expanding rail infrastructure and rail services. One question that comes to mind readily, Are Nigerian engineers bystanders in all of this?
Well, thank you very much. We are not bystanders, by standards. The thing is that from day one, when railway came into this country in 1898, Nigerians have been involved. At that time, there were no Nigerian engineers. But then, I recall that by 1963 to 64, thereabout, Nigerian engineers were so involved to the extent that they constructed, I think, Gombe to Maiduguri, about 400 kilometers on their own without any expatriate. So railway and engineering is a global knowledge. If you have it, you have it. Now, but the thing is that, let me just make this thought known. We are talking about passenger. Railway, as it is not meant for passengers. The primary provision of railway infrastructure is to move goods, services, and products. Okay? The one, when you now say, okay, maybe you now complement intercity travels by having passengers, use them, you now have coaches. The other one, you just use rolling stocks and the locomotive. This one, the locomotive and the coaches. Now, when there is scarcity, we are human beings. Anything can happen. And you find a situation whereby if things continue like this, in the next 1 week, you say they are standing, people will be staying on the roof. If you go to Lagos between 6:30 and 8, you'll see people on the roof. Because you see, for railway, it's not like an aircraft, okay? Whatever load you put on it, it will take. Because the issue is that it needs weight. That's why coaches and they are very massive in steel, so that they can make appropriate contact with the rail to roll. Because if the weight is not enough, it will slide. Because they have to continue to overcome the friction. Now, so the issue of passenger safety is what really you are talking about, that it's not good for them to be standing. And rail is not like a bus. You can't be having it every 5 minutes. Of course, that's the reason why we need metro lines. Because metro lines, they operate on the basis of railway system. Okay. But then, the capacity that is for Nigerian engineers, our concern is that we make sure that this system is sustainable. Because when you do not domesticate a process or a facility in your country, it is not sustainable. And since this knowledge is a global knowledge, okay, Nigerian engineers, they did it on their own. All of them were even working in NRC, Nigerian Railway Corporation. There was no contract awarded even at that time. It was direct labor. And they constructed about 400 kilometers of road in 4 years. So, and the people, most of them that did it now, they've all passed on. People like engineer Folúṣọ̀kẹ́ Phillips, he did that. So, what we are saying is this. For Nigerians to enjoy these facilities, okay, we have to domesticate it. And railway, of course, is a catalyst. It's a provision, a facility that can trigger off industrialization along the routes, development of our rural areas, and so on and so forth. In fact, there are some places where there are no roads right now, and then you have rails that can get to them. The other thing that is very important is this. The younger ones, that is, railway can generate a spin-off of employment for our young ones. Well, I still need to thank the Honorable Minister of Transportation, His Excellency Rotimi Amaechi, for getting some of our engineers, some young engineers, both young engineers in NSC, to participate with the consultants. They embedded them in the consultants. We wrote to him that we need to do this local capacity building. It is too important. And, well, we got 8 slots.
At what point? Sorry, at what point? Because you talked about domestication and sustenance.
Yes.
And I'm asking, at what point do you think that Nigerian engineer or this whole project can be domesticated? At what point in the value chain?
Very good point. At the point of conception. Like we talked to in fact, we made a publication in 2016, that at the time they were negotiating all these contracts, the professionals in the value chain should have been embedded in the whole process. It is very important. Yes, somebody is giving us money, but we are going to pay back. And we need to fashion out a system where we will pay back. Because if you don't pay back, you are in more trouble. Because if you give me a facility that I cannot pay back on, I'm owing you, and then when I have maintenance problem, what happens? I cannot use the facility again. And that was why you were coming to the point where you were saying about, we're talking about a breakdown. There must be, both manpower and product building to ensure that we can maintain and expand and improve
what are you seeing now in terms of all of that you are talking about?
Okay.
Because maintenance has to be there. I mean, the spares and supplies and so on and so forth. What are you seeing from the engineering point of view?
Very good point. It has been done before. I've read the history of NRC, Nigerian Railway Corporation. Their workshop, if you go there, you'll be amazed. They could turn out anything, fabricate anything. So, and those things, those knowledge and skills, they vanished when there was no need for them again. So this is the time to resuscitate them. And the truth of the matter is that if somebody perceives that you have some resources that are very useful to them, they really do not want to give you the tricks. They want you to depend on them. It's you that will own it and ensure that you create a process whereby you'll be very independent. It is good that we are getting loans, but the truth of the matter is that you should not be a debtor. Because in the final analysis, a debtor is someone who cannot really repay his loan. There's no problem at getting loan. But when your repayment date is due and you cannot pay, you become a debtor. Now, we do not want to become a debtor by ensuring that our domestic, activities can repay the loan. And that has to be determined ab initio.
Okay, Engineer Makole, let's pause you for a while. We'll go on a very short break. We've got lots and lots of tweets. We'll take the tweets and then we'll take the next set of questions.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the role of the media in election coverage. Exclusive on the National Broadcasting Commission, its mandate as the sole regulator of Nigerian media. Dr. Toma Dabaden and Ishat Modibo Kawu. Now, this edition also features the king of stand-up comedy in Nigeria, Ali Baba. NTA standard to be ready for election transmission after decades of abandonment. Find out from the DG transactional elections in our political space. An evil wind that blows no good. DG, National Orientation Agency, calls from TV Guide, your indispensable companion, x-rays the impact of social media on electioneering process as electorates present their expectations from incoming government. Meet some TV professionals behind the screen and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
I don't wash my hand from oil bunkering.
General, what you going to yarn? What did the yarn serve? I don't understand though.
Because they spoil our water and our environment. And they cause our people serious harm. Militants is said, you know good. Me, I not do again, Sam. Because why? Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture. These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're looking at rail transportation milestones and prospects. We have the Minister of Transportation here with us. We have the MD of Railway, and of course, we have the President of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. But we've got tweets also from you. Let's quickly run through them. Festus Akimboyewa is saying, Honorable Minister should be happy that Nigerians are moving from road to railway. He should stop assuming that many Nigerians will be comfortable to go back to the road.
Well, there's a second set of tweets you're starting off with, Claire, but that's fair enough. Okay. Alhaji Musa Hadeja tweets, so we have the rail lines in Jigawa and Yobe that are being used for conveying groundnuts, hides and skin since decades, but not included for renovation in the 2019 budget.
All right, and this is God Bless Uko. What is the government doing concerning rail transport in Cross River and Akwa Ibom states? And why can't the ticket be sold for the number of seats in the train?
Now, this is coming from Chuks Akuna. Is the Minister of Transport saying that until security improves on the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway, Nigerians will have to endure the nightmare of traveling from Abuja to Kaduna by train where tickets go for as much as 15,000 naira one way?
And Sani Michael Omakoji tweets, as we think of bringing rail back on track, we should not over-concentrate our effort on it, as we are doing in the oil sector now, to the extent that we forget water transportation and other forms of transportation. However, we need experts, men of proven integrity to succeed.
Now, Danlade Ndaebo tweets, projections, yes, but the government has no choice but to check the activities of greedy train station officials who hoard tickets. I wonder why the ticketing is not yet automated. It's a modern train. Tickets should be available online to eliminate the problem of racketeering.
And the last Don tweets, can't we have more coaches, more departure time, and more transparency in ticketing? Nigerians are ready to pay.
Now, this is from Ife. Gone are the days people queue to buy tickets. It must be online.
And Man Chido, Nigeria, they say, is the giant of Africa, so we must do things right. Rail transport is good for this country. We must go digital on selling the tickets. The federal government must provide CPU system to check the irregularities.
Law Alpha C. Government should focus adequately on rail transportation as a major area of revenue generation by beaming a searchlight on qualifications and transparency in its coordination and operations.
And Festus again gives the solution. He says ticket racketeering can only be solved by making train services regular and readily available to all Nigerians. Government should invest more in rail services, provide more coaches, which will put ticket touts and racketeers out of business.
Now, Chris Simeon has this tweet, short and sharp. He said to go by train is convenient, but it is slow.
All right, and Dele Jack Solomon, let's apply ICT through tap card. This will prevent ticket racketeering. Also, let's employ the latest train authorization systems, automatic train protection ATP, and in-cab signaling in all of its lines. And he has quite a number of suggestions there.
All right, now Titus Monday Knock tweets, says honestly and sincerely, he writes, the best way to go is online ticketing system. Full stop.
All right.
All right. Those are the tweets that we can accommodate in the meantime. But let's bring in again Engineer Adekunle Mokolo. You were talking about the involvement of Nigerian engineers in all of this, because as the system continues to expand, there is still a lot of work to be done. And then, of course, once you have the work done, you also have maintenance issues. Okay. Every year, we are churning out graduates of engineering, whether for the polytechnics or the universities. How involved should Nigerian engineers be in what's going on?
Thank you very much. Well, the first thing is that it is the right of every citizen to be involved in what is happening in his country as a professional. So whether it's engineering, whether it's law or politics or whatever, because you can as well say, oh, there's a good governor somewhere in Thailand or America or somewhere, so he should now come and be a governor in your state. Yes. It's as simple as that. Now, these Chinese, let me tell you, when maglev came, that is the magnetic process of railway. They call it maglev in short, but it's German. It was developed by the Germans. When the Chinese wanted it, okay, in the late 80s, they begged, okay, come and give us the high-speed train, because that is where you have, you get the speed of more than 120 kilometers an hour. And they embedded in their contract that they will only do one. After that, we will take over and do it. And they started developing just like 1985. And now they are exporting that skill to us here. Whereas, on our own, we built our tracks in 1963-64, 400 kilometers. No one single expatriate was there.
So what happened to those? What happened to them?
Yeah, because when they are, well, you know the history of our country. The truth of the matter is that if you have a situation where you have individual expertise and collective incompetence through dictatorship processes, that is when, because the beauty of democracy is not providing roads and good roads and water and everything.
Engineer Mokolo, let me quickly ask you, because we must race for time now.
Yeah.
The rail development, it's a very complex technology. It involves very complex technology. For instance, fabricating the sleepers. Do we have the competence for that?
Yes. Answer is yes. We've been doing it before, and we can still do it now. Look, the MD of NRC, you just give him 100 kilometers. I want the minister to take this to FEC. Let him do by direct labor, just 100 kilometers. Let him take the recruit Nigerians. We don't want even from design to commissioning. Well, we will do it. Then the other thing that is very important is this. See, we do not even need to start debating this. The truth is that if you continue to eat other people's food, it's a matter of time you will go hungry.
Okay.
The same thing with, just like what the government did with rice,
I'm sorry.
that is what they should do with engineering infrastructure in this country.
Engineer Mokolo, thanks. You are illustrating now the main point that you have made. I was just wondering, back again to the Honorable Minister, I know that sometimes in terms of mentality, we are saying, look, our challenge now is to get this infrastructure and get the services to our people. But in all of this, jobs are being created. I don't think we have seen a sense of the number of jobs being created. If he's talking about direct labor in laying rail tracks or in laying constructing sleepers.
If we give you 100 kilometers now, can you do it? With the funding. With the funding.
I will do it, but that does not mean we will do everything local.
Oh.
No, what do you mean? What do you mean?
So we still need to import the rail. We don't have the steel.
No, not even that. I don't think
the knowledge is there.
Sorry, please.
I don't think that Nigerian engineers are being fair to us. They should be honest enough in doing this. When we have applications from the Nigerian engineers, not even for a construction, for supervision, they tell us they will get foreign partners. Because, you see, the technology he's talking about in the 60s, it's not the technology that there is in the railway now. That time it was narrow gauge at 80 kilometers, 100 kilometers per hour. Now you have engines that are around 120, 150, 250, 350. And when train accidents happen, it is not 1 or 2 persons that die. They die in droves. So for a responsible government, you must be careful, extremely careful. Now, as a governor, I thank God I was once a governor, that experience. We were put in the cabinet room here, and we were shown Nigerian universities where they even use candle in place of electricity. Is that kind of? I don't think that's the kind of this thing you're exposed to, that kind of technology that will harm or that will have to deal with lives. What I think can happen is what we are currently doing: retrain Nigerian engineers, put them on the job, let them be supervised by those who have come with the technology. So what are we doing currently? What we are doing currently is to say to Tim, for instance, supervising engineer, look, if you need 100 staff, let only 10 be foreigners. The rest 90 must be qualified Nigerian engineers that are supervised by people, and you transfer that technology. What are we doing with the contractor that is constructing? Currently, there was this scandal, we're taking people overseas to go and study in China. The process should have been more transparent than it was and all that. We're taking the total of 150 Nigerian students to China to go and study the Chinese technology on those rails, and they will do 5 years first degree course. We intend to, so that some of them should continue to masters and PhD, because we are currently establishing 2 universities in Nigeria. One in Daura, Transport University in Daura, and the other in Ubima in Rivers State, Transport University. And this will deal with the logistics, civil engineering, railway engineering, mechanical, electrical, all that. So that by the time you bring a Nigerian engineer for railways into the system, you know he's a qualified engineer. I'm not saying that Nigerian engineers are not qualified. I'm saying because we have abandoned railway for a very long time, they may not have those requisite experiences that those people had. The people he's referring to that built 400 kilometers of railway, right? He's right to the extent that if you look at the construction, there will be only 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 foreign engineers supervising the rest engineers. And for instance, there is a team 4 in Lagos Ibadan. It's supervised by a Nigerian engineer, a lady for that matter. Her name is Precious. I tease her a lot because when you go there, you see her alone for how many kilometers? Over 10 to 20 kilometers. At the end of team 4 is the team 5. It's supervised by an Italian engineer. But what is important is that by the time you take away Precious now from supervising to construction, she already has the experience from the job she had done earlier. So I don't think that it's just that easy to just say to us, oh, put Nigerian engineers and start constructing. You may have a situation where you have a lot of derailment, and derailment could cause death.
That's a big slap on...
I didn't say that. I don't know what you mean by a big slap.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir, because if Engineer Mo...
I'm agonizing here.
Okay.
I'm agonizing.
Please.
Because
pour out your agony.
I am the one, the minister is not the one to tell us that we have capacity for these things. I'm the one to say to the minister either whether we have capacity for it or not.
Why?
The reason is that I'm the professional. I'm in charge of the profession. And let him try. It's as simple as that. So it's not about paper or anything. And the truth of the matter is this. How did those people that we are patronizing, how did they get their experience from? How did they get their skill and their knowledge? Science is a global knowledge. It's how you use it. So we're talking about Nigerian universities and so on. If they give these things to professionals, the professional bodies to do, we will know a way of ensuring that we have the right facilities to train, the students in the universities. And if you do, and engineering is, you keep doing and improving. Look, these things that we are talking about, the first locomotive was going at less than 8 kilometers an hour. So what are we talking about? The most important thing is that...
But is it true? Is it true? Sorry, quickly. Yeah. We have less than 4 minutes to go. Is it true that when Nigerian or indigenous engineers are contracted for a particular work, you now enlist, you outsource it, so to speak?
To foreign,
yes.
Technical partners.
Let me correct what he's saying and correct what he heard me say. I'm not talking about our senior engineers. I'm talking about the ones we use on the job. We don't use the senior engineer, a man at 50, 60, who may have had experiences. We use young men of 22, 25. At that point, they need retraining. They have left university. So when you say he's agonizing, he will agonize if I said, our engineers can't do this job. I said the engineers I'm using on site are 18-year-old, 20, 22, 25, that may not have had these experiences he's talking about. So when I'm confident with those engineers, what then happens is that he supervised. He's talked about China. I can give you the history of the Chinese technology. They told me clearly that the first thing they did was they brought in GM and GE. General Motors from America, GE, General Electric, and kept them, General Motors, to teach them manufacturing of cars. And they kept them for over 15, 20 years understudying them. GE, the same. I also said a similar history in South Africa. They brought in a Chinese company and GE. So what the South African engineers did was to understudy GE, and the Chinese company. Now they are fabricating coaches yet, just like they are attempting to fabricate locomotives. They're not
but
perfect.
why is the minister not also enlisting the services of senior Nigerian engineers?
They can't work in my by law. There is an age you get to. You can't be a staff of the ministry anymore. So we're not saying they're not qualified. I said the senior engineers are qualified. They have experiences, but they can't work in the ministry.
But if these are contracts, is there an age cap on a client who
let me make some clearance here. You see, I'm part of the construction team. I'm an engineer. I'm a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. And we have more than 20 engineers, about 4 fellows of the Nigerian Society of Engineers working in railway. Who anything they do.
How many? 4.
That are fellows.
4.
Fellows.
4.
Fellows of Nigerian Society of It's like SAN.
I say 4.
Yes.
Okay. It is like SAN.
It's like, as you have SAN in law, you have fellow. Yes. Am I correct?
I know, but I'm just saying 4.
Yes.
It's too low. That's precisely.
Okay.
That is the implication of what I'm saying.
That are supervising even the Chinese. We supervise the Chinese.
Correct.
So do you understand? We had a preliminary design and say, okay, this is what we want in our country. Develop it, and they will develop, pass it to the consultant. Pass. If we don't say good, because we use our culture and tradition, what we do A and B, it's not just, they don't just import what they do in China, because the climate is not the same. Our attitude is not the same. You see, in China, they may raise their track for people not to cross. In Nigeria, we fence. Are you getting me? So those things we bring in.
Is that not the domestication that the engineer is talking about? What you're saying?
You see, the slippers are made in Nigeria. And if you go to the site where they are making the slippers, you may see 5 Chinese and 200 Nigerians.
What is the big deal about making slippers?
Just hold on.
Yes.
Get this correctly.
Yes.
It is not as if Nigerian engineers are not
part of it.
I said, as I said, it didn't get me well. I said, if there are 100 persons, 10 are foreigners, 90 are Nigerians. Get the point we're making. But we're saying that most of this technology currently are imported. So Nigerian engineers can't tell me that they have perfect knowledge of those technologies that have imported. So we allowed those 10 persons who may have developed this technology to come in, so that if there are mistakes here and there, they're able to say these are mistakes and all that. Because railway involves lives. Nigerian engineers are being used. But the ones that are fresh from universities, you leave them like that? No. We keep them to be retrained by the people you have given these contracts to. They may be Nigerian engineers. I've given an example where Nigerian engineers are supervising. Tabeware, there's one good Igbo Nigerian engineer that is supervising. I hardly see the Italians there. I don't know the guy's name. Chinedu. He's a Nigerian engineer. But what I'm saying is, for me to hire an 18, 20-year-old boy who is fresh from university and make him a supervisor, that would be taking a big risk. But for the senior engineers that we can't employ, the ones that are already there are supervising. They may not be enough. And because the technology we're talking about now is new and modern, it's not the one he was referring to in the 60s. We need those who fabricated that technology to come and this. And like I could say, even the Chinese learned from Americans. South Africans learned from both Chinese and Americans. And our engineers can't just say that, Haba.
Minister, if you look at our time, we are
pressed.
Yes.
Pressed.
Really
I don't
pressed.
know. maybe we'll have the Honorable Minister come back at some point to talk about the Eastern Rail Corridor. And then the linkage, Calabar, Lagos, all those Benin, all those ones, all those ones, yes, that they are talking about. Well, today, the minister has not had the opportunity because we dealt more with consumer issues.
But I'd like the minister to speak to the issue of the transportation just in less than a minute. What is the idea behind the transportation university you talked about?
The idea is to get fresh students trained in railway engineering. That way, you're focusing purely on railway engineering. And not just railway engineering, you deal with logistics. So all this issue of ticketing, cargos, and all that, you deal with that and ensure that everything about railway engineering is put together under one roof called the Transportation University. That's one. You deal with maritime transportation. You also deal with aviation and deal with other land transport. That's what that university will provide. So it's a specialized university, and we'll begin to take students as soon as we conclude construction.
Where is that?
All right.
Well, I don't know.
Okay, it's on that note, we'd like to thank all our three guests who have been with us this morning, and we also like to appreciate the tweets that came in from our viewers. As we said, we hope to get the minister back some point to talk about the Eastern Corridor as well as the South-South and Southwest rail link connections. First, we'd like to appreciate Engineer Adekunle Mokolo, who's President, Nigeria Society of Engineers. Thank you very much for being part of our discussion this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Our appreciation also to Engineer Freeborn Fideto-Hiria, Managing Director of Nigeria Railway Corporation. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
We hope that your fellows in the Nigeria Society of Engineers will multiply in due course. Our deep thanks also to the Honorable Minister of Transport, that's Right Honorable Rotimi Amechi. Thank you very much for being with us on the program. Okay, so that does it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. And then, do have a lovely day ahead of you. I'm Kingsley Usadolo.
And I'm Claire Delabu Abdulrazak. Watch a repeat broadcast later today at 5 minutes past 5 on NTA News 24, channels 46 on GoTV, and of course 419 on DSTV.
Channel 419.
419. Bye-bye.